In the magical kingdom of Grand Gaia, a legendary great Archmage became famous as the hero who led humanity to victory in a brutal otherworldly war. His unparalleled mastery of magic and leadership saved countless lives and restored peace throughout the land, earning him respect, admiration, and eternal gratitude. Or so he thought. During a grand celebration in his honor, the king suddenly announced, to everyone's surprise, that the very hero who had saved the world would be banished. Although the king acknowledged his achievements, he said the Archmage's great power was too frightening to keep around now that there was peace. To make matters worse, the wine he drank was laced with a sealing agent, and his 4 chosen elemental subordinates turned against him on false charges of treason. Moments before dying, he cast a secret reincarnation spell and awakens 3,000 years later in a modern hospital. Getting up, he notices he is in the body of a high school student, Shivana Asuma, and this surprises him as the boy has the same name as him. Alarms blared and the medical staff rushed in, and to their surprise, Asuma was standing as if nothing had happened to him. They consider this a miracle, as he was supposed to be in a vegetative state. In disbelief, the doctor touches his shoulder, but Asuma is lost in thought. He understands that the reincarnation spell worked because he is alive and well. Moreover, it is surprising that he can understand the language the medical staff is speaking, as the first thing on his mind is to understand this world's civilization. He asks the staff where the largest library is. The staff hesitates to answer, so he uses mind control on a nurse to get directions. Asuma sees a bag in the distance and asks if it is his. The nurse, under his control, says yes, leaving the doctor confused as to why the nurse is so easily telling him everything he wants to know. Asuma grabs his bag and leaves the hospital without looking back. At the station, he notices the phone in his bag and, not knowing how to use it, asks the woman next to him. He calls it a metal plate, and the girl tells him it is a smartphone. Asuma uses his appraisal power on the smartphone, and his analysis reveals it is a magical device that can access everything he desires, including the library he is looking for. Shortly after, he gets on a train, and after several analyses, he realizes he did not even need to visit the library, as he was able to acquire basic knowledge about the world thanks to the smartphone. Asuma also discovered that with this magical device, anyone can communicate with people far away and instantly search for or gather any kind of collected information. 3,000 years have passed since he died, and magical technology has regressed. It has been replaced by science, and although it seems convenient, Asuma thinks it is nothing special because it is all just cheap tricks. He can now see that he is in the peaceful world he risked and sacrificed his life to protect. Shortly after, he arrives at the home of the body's previous owner and realizes he lost his entire family. On the table is a diary, and upon picking it up to read, he realizes the boy wanted to die because his classmates and even his teacher were bullying him. Asuma realizes that he understood the gravity of the situation when he opened the smartphone and saw that the boy was constantly receiving trash messages. Most of these messages were from the group chat of the Shibuya District Magic School, which the boy attended. The next day, Asuma arrives at school, surprising everyone. They approach him asking if he is okay, which surprises Asuma, who asks if he should not be there. A student reveals that the report said he tried to take his own life because of the constant bullying. Asuma's appearance raises questions among the students, and he is still trying to understand what is happening when a red-haired guy, Tanui Kiryo, and his group appear. Upon seeing Kiryo, Asuma notices that he is a descendant of one of his subordinates from 3,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago. Kiryo approaches him and reminds him that he had already warned him not to come to the academy. Kiryo mocks Asuma, asking if his magic nearly killed him and made him forget everything. Kiryo laughs out loud at Asuma, calling him a loser. Kiryo's subordinates suggest they mess with him like they usually do. It then dawns on Asuma that Kiryo was the one who treated the other Asuma like trash. This enrages Asuma, and he decides to test how much mana the body has. He activates his magic and fearlessly punches Kiryo in the face. The onlookers are astonished to see Asuma attacking Kiryo. Kiryo's enraged subordinates attack Asuma, but he is not worried, as the mana in his body is in his favor. Asuma easily dodges the attackers and takes them down with simple combat skills. He then decides to test his mana output and unleashes a powerful magic wave that knocks them to the ground. Kiryo is furious at the humiliation he is suffering at Asuma's hands, and angrily unleashes an Inferno fire cannon. The students are shocked to see this, as it is a powerful spell forbidden at the school. They yell at Asuma, telling him to dodge the attack or he will die. Surprisingly, Asuma does not move and activates a particle veil that annihilates magic. Asuma's spell disintegrates the fire cannon, and Asuma is relieved that his signature spell still works. Kiryo is stunned as his flames vanish before they even reach Asuma. Even the students watching are confused because this is something they have never seen before. Asuma decides to get serious and lunges towards Kiryo, leaving the guy petrified because he never expected someone like Asuma could fight back so hard. Kiryo believes that he and his subordinates are elites, and Asuma should not even be able to touch them, Enraged, Kiryu unleashes a powerful magic that engulfs his body in flames. Asuma recognizes the ancient magic and realizes he has awakened his potential out of anger. With his body engulfed in flames, he goes after him. But before he can even move, Asuma intercepts him midway with a punch to the stomach. This sends a wave of pain through his body, and Asuma finishes him off with a blow to the head, sending him flying. When everything calms down, Kiryu and his companions lie on the ground, writhing in pain. The other students are stunned and horrified. Asuma, meanwhile, analyzes his body's structure and notes that the latent mana is incredible, but it lacks the stamina to sustain it. Later, Asuma sits in class with the other students and promises himself that he will not let what happened before repeat itself. Furthermore, he has no plans to forgive the descendants of those who betrayed him. At that moment, he sees a weird device on the table and asks the girl next to him, "What is that, Miss Shinomiya?" Lily says it's a device for quickly activating modern magic called a smart rod. Asuma realizes that modern magic is a combination of science and magic. Basically, spells from 3,000 years ago are now called ancient magic, and those who practice them are extinct. With the advancement of science, modern magic became the standard. Modern magic is based on theories, which sounds strange to Asuma, but it makes it intriguing. Suddenly, Asuma realizes he can create his own original hybrid magic by combining modern and ancient magic, and this idea excites him. After the lectures finish, Asuma asks Lily if classes are over. She replies that a monthly aptitude test is scheduled for today. That's why everyone is heading to the schoolyard. Shortly after, they arrive and are greeted by their teacher, George Todd. He informs them that today's test is going to be the most important one yet, because it will decide their attribute as a mage. He urges them to take the exam very seriously. Asuma still has a lot to learn, so he asks Lily to explain the attribute colors. Lily says that fire mages are red, water mages are blue, and dark mages are black. Mana is channeled through the body's circuits to cast spells, but they have a limited capacity, so most people stick to a single element. This is the choice that determines one's specialization. Shortly after, George calls Asuma to the stage, with a disgusted look on his face. He asks him what element he is going to choose. Confidently, Asuma tells George that he isn't interested in choosing an element because he's fine without one. George thinks Asuma is joking, but Asuma makes it clear that he doesn't plan on choosing a single element. This enrages George because he thinks Asuma is mocking him. The other students are shocked because Asuma is choosing to be a nit. They can't believe he is intentionally choosing such a disadvantageous path. This is the first time Asuma has been called a nit, and he realizes that's what they call a colorless mage in the modern era. However, he isn't worried because they are all mistaken. Following a biased growth path is foolish, because being colorless is the only way to make full use of one's mana. George complains, asking why someone as despicable as Asuma is enrolled in the academy. George threatens to beat up Asuma, as he regularly does. Asuma then realizes that George is the teacher who always bullied the old Asuma. George tells Asuma that colorless mages have no potential, but Asuma disagrees, saying that nits are the strongest. Since George doesn't believe him, Asuma suggests proving it with a mock battle. Asuma is ready to show George that nits are the strongest, which enrages the teacher. He can't believe Asuma is seriously challenging him to a fight, and so he informs the students that there's a change of plans. He tells them that the day's aptitude test will be an unrestricted mock battle. Lily gets scared hearing that George is putting no limits on the duel, since he is the strongest in the faculty. Before the fight, George warns Asuma not to blame him for whatever happens. Asuma casually responds that George should worry about himself. The fight begins and George unleashes 2 intelligent rods, claiming he is the only one in the academy who can handle multiple elements. He combines 2 attacks, the modern magical bracelet bomb and the thunder spear. Everyone thinks Asuma is finished as the attacks head towards him, but to everyone's surprise, he blocks the attack with a barrier spell casually. George watches in horror because what is happening before him seems impossible. George launches more attacks at Asuma, but he effortlessly blocks them. This surprises George and the observing students. George continues to unleash every possible attack, but Asuma slowly approaches while deflecting each one. George panics and shouts at Asuma not to come any closer. Asuma confidently approaches, breaks his rod before placing his hand on George's shoulder, and unleashes a painful attack. Asuma tells George to confess everything he did or he will turn him to dust. Seeing that Asuma is not joking, George begins to confess. He confesses that he always looked the other way when Kiryu and his group bullied Asuma. Even when Asuma trusted him, he would hit him for it. The students are horrified and disappointed to hear this, and rush to find the principal. George collapses to his knees, and Asuma looks down at him while asking how it feels to lose to a colorless mage. After the fight with George, Asuma becomes an intimidating presence in class, seeming like a different person. At the end of the day, Asuma approaches Lily to talk, surprising the girl. Asuma thanks Lily for her previous help. and Lily's face turns bright red with extreme embarrassment. Asuma makes it worse for Lily by getting closer and asking if she is willing to go out with him. Everyone in Lily's world goes into shock upon hearing this. With her face completely red, she subtly agrees to go out with him. However, she soon realizes that Asuma means something else. He just wants her to show him the school and the important places he needs to know. After showing him everything, Asuma thanks her for her help, and she feels like an idiot for getting her hopes up. She can't contain her emotions and gets angry until Asuma asks her what is wrong. She quickly replies that nothing is wrong, and to cover her emotional mistake, she takes Asuma to the best building in the school, the magical analysis room. Lily tells him that students can use the room if they request it. Asuma tells Lily that he can finish the tour now because he understands everything. He thanks her for the help and assures her that he will repay her someday. Lily is so surprised by all this that she asks if he is really Asuma. She says that Asuma has been a different person since the day started. Asuma admits that he might seem different, as he woke up the day before and his memories are somewhat confused. He then apologizes for worrying her. But deep down, Asuma is impressed that Lily can realize something is wrong. Once this is resolved, Lily leaves and Asuma stays in the analysis room. Asuma places his hand on the computer and asks it to analyze ancient and modern magic. Is he sure that with the computer he can create a new and original hybrid magic? Asuma smiles, eager to use it. The next day, a guy suddenly appears next to him asking if he is Asuma. This surprises Asuma because he hadn't even felt the presence of the guy. The guy introduces himself as Isuya Kadokura and says he is one of the S4. Asuma is confused about what S4 is, and Isuya explains what the four strong ones mean. Basically, the members of the group are the strongest in the academy, and Isuya is one of them. Isuya tells Asuma that he heard how he defeated Kiryu, who is also a member of the group. Isuya is surprised because Asuma is a colorless mage. However, Isuya admits that he doesn't mind that Asuma defeated Kiryu, as he doesn't like the things Kiryu does. That's why, Isuya tells Asuma that he wants them to be friends. He extends his hand to Asuma with a big smile, and Asuma takes a moment before shaking it and accepting the deal. While they shake hands, Asuma notices that Isuya has cast a weak spell on him and assumes it's for tracking. Instead of getting angry, he is impressed because Isuya casts modern magic, naturally without a smart rod. Moreover, he clearly sees that Isuya is a descendant of his former comrade, the Wind Mage. After exchanging handshakes, Isuya turns to leave, and Asuma smiles because he accepts Isuya's challenge. The next day, Asuma goes to the teacher's lounge to book the analysis room, and they give him a time slot from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. during that day's conference. Asuma can't concentrate as he looks forward to visiting the magical analysis room after school. He heads straight to the room. Asuma focuses on ancient magic, the Great Panel, a form of magic he used before. It is a process where mana is extracted from the atmosphere and condensed into the mana framework of the body. Once the magic that the mage wants to activate is determined, the mana is transferred from the mana framework to the execution framework, and the magic circle formats the unstable process into a fixed pattern. The precision and beauty of a magic circle depend on the mage's skill. The mana flows through the magic circle created by the caster, and when the magic is released, it activates. Ancient magic, on the other hand, is only used by the chosen ones. This is because mana is not refined in the body without magical talent. However, in the modern era, things are different because the internal mana framework and the execution framework have been replaced by the mana circuit thanks to the invention of the smart rod. The smart rod injects mana into the body's mana circuit and creates a magic circle to activate the spell. In summary, they achieved a more general process, allowing magic to be activated without innate personal differences. However, due to the mechanization of the process, magical power has decreased compared to ancient magic. And as expected, without the smart rod, there is no way to use magic. With all this, Asuma understands that creating hybrid magic by merging ancient and modern technology is his ultimate goal. However, to achieve this, he must master modern magic at the highest level and thus conquer all attributes. He plans to use the quantum computer to calculate the basic theory of his hybrid magic. Asuma inputs the data, and upon finishing, he decides to take a drink while waiting for the results. Suddenly, he is thrown into a magical space where he finds himself falling. He quickly realizes that he is being attacked by someone wielding modern magic. The problem is that he can't see the person. At that moment, he realizes that there is only one person who has gone unnoticed on his radar, and it's him. Asuma can't believe that guy is already acting when he suggests they be friends. Since Isuya doesn't mind attacking him, Asuma plans to show him what it means to be his superior. Since there's no way Isuya teleported him to the sky, Asuma deduces that it's a perception-altering spell to make him see it that way. It's the same kind of magic Isuya used before, and Asuma is surprised that it hasn't changed. However, Asuma is curious to see what will happen if he keeps falling freely. At that moment, many artificial magical beasts emerge from nowhere. Asuma casts a barrier spell and realizes he will be stuck on the defensive if he doesn't locate where Isuya is. Asuma plans his move and decides to use magic to slow his fall, but suddenly he notices he is falling into a magical mine. It's then that he realizes Isuya has already set up countermeasures in the magical space that will react to whatever spell he uses. Asuma quickly concludes that he must destroy the mines before they explode in a chain reaction. He thinks he has everything under control until he suddenly finds himself floating in an empty space without atmosphere, making it hard to breathe. He is still dealing with this when several explosions shake the space. It's then that Asuma decides enough is enough. He quickly realizes he risks suffocating and dying if he doesn't act soon to fix it. The magical space is complex in its construction like a work of art. Knowing how Isuya operates, he is sure Isuya is hiding somewhere and watching to witness his death. This means the space is not autonomous. So Isuya is nearby, watching through a peephole. Asuma concludes that his way out is to find her and concentrates as much as possible. Isuya sees this and believes Asuma is finally giving up, but at the same time, he is not ready to back down. Suddenly, a large explosion shakes the space, and this is because Asuma channels all his concentrated mana into his execution frame and unleashes it all at once. Isuya is surprised to see this, but Asuma doesn't stop as he continues to expand his enormous magic circle. He plans to expose the anomaly within the space and locate Isuya's observation point by doing this. After a few moments of doing this, he locates Isuya and quickly explodes the space. He breaks Isuya's magic and returns to the magic room. With this, he confirms that Isuya was using recognition-altering magic. Asuma leaves the room to find Isuya sitting. Asuma approaches him, asking why he would want to harm him. When he previously mentioned wanting to get along, Isuya jumped excitedly, telling Asuma that it's just as he imagined. Isuya comments on how easy it was for Asuma to break the illusion magic and cast levitation magic without incantation. And Suya tells Suma that he is an incredible person for being able to do this. And Suya keeps dancing while comparing Asuma's technique to the best art in the world. He tells Asuma that he is amazing and wants to understand his magic circuits. Suddenly, Isuya's expression changes, and he tells Asuma that what he enjoys most is watching something beautiful get destroyed. Before Asuma can react, he notices that Isuya has outsmarted him again and has fallen into another of his spells. Isuya activates his magic spell. The falling meteorites and a bunch of construction materials from below prevent him in the air from starting to fall on Asuma, and in an attempt to impale him, even with several sharp materials approaching him, Asuma remains calm. Just before the spikes fall on him, he creates a barrier to block them. However, Isuya mocks him, saying he wants to see how long he will endure. Isuya continues to launch materials at Asuma, forcing him to constantly dodge, and clearly notices that Isuya is trying to corner him. Before Asuma realizes it, he is surrounded by construction materials aiming to finish him off. Asuma keeps holding on, but Isuya taunts him, saying he is already reaching his limit. Isuya then takes things further by attracting a plane towards Asuma's location. Isuya cultivates his aura in the air while telling Asuma that he is in his world. Isuya tells Asuma that he is curious to see how he will block his final attack. Asuma raises his hand in the air, but at the same time focuses his attention on his surroundings. While Isuya plans to stab him with a needle, as he throws the needle towards Asuma, he cancels the spell that protected the plane. This surprises Isuya, and he watches as the plane crashes. However, it is an illusion, and his real attack was the needle. Asuma saw it and easily caught the needle. Asuma mocks him, saying he has already seen his tricks. Asuma states that the spell moving the wind to release debris was just a decoy. Isuya dropped real objects like poles and metal plates, but then used an illusory plane to distract Asuma. He then launched the magical needle infused with a consciousness-altering spell, which was Isuya's true move. Asuma smiles because even Isuya's supposed meteor shower was nothing more than a deception. Asuma praises Isuya's effort but tells him that everything he tries is useless against him. Isuya argues this, saying there is no way Asuma could have seen his magic because no living mage can perceive when he activates it. Isuya says that this is only possible if the person is a legendary archmage from 3,000 years ago. At that moment, Asuma tells him that since his magic was excellent, he will end the battle with subtlety. He lunges at Isuya at a speed he couldn't react to, and tells him that he used too much magic in front of him, which gave him the chance to analyze it. Asuma places his hand on Isuya's chest and unleashes a magic circle that sends a wave of pain through his body. The magical effect activates, and Isuya screams in pain before fainting. Asuma stands tall with a smile because he won the battle while Isuya was unconscious, dreaming of his ancestor from 3,000 years ago. At that time, he was very close to Asuma and saw him as a work of art. Although he was close to Asuma, Suya was not with the rest of the team, as he always avoided them. Kiryu thinks Isuya is shy, but another teammate says that maybe Isuya just doesn't like him. It seems that Isuya doesn't get along with others because they don't value art, and Isuya is not one to mingle with such people. Just when things were going very well between him and Asuma, suddenly one of his teammates informs him that the king has issued a royal decree regarding the fact that Asuma is a traitor. And Suya doesn't want to believe it because he doesn't think Asuma could betray them. His teammate tells him it's true, as the king has clairvoyance and is never wrong. This breaks Isuya's heart, as he considers Asuma a work of art, and wonders why he would risk everything to betray the kingdom. Isuya is questioning this when he wakes up in the infirmary. Since Isuya didn't experience the events directly, he believes what he just witnessed was a terrible dream. Isuya is trying to compose himself when Asuma appears offering him some water to drink. He tells him it's a drink with electrolytes and sugar. Asuma suggests that Isuya rehydrate as quickly as possible because he lost a lot of fluids from sweating. Surprised, Isuya asks Asuma why he is helping him. Asuma says that Isuya faced his spell head-on and couldn't possibly come out unscathed. However, he tells him that his magic circuits are stable and there's no lasting damage. At that moment, Isuya sees a towel in Asuma's hand and realizes that Asuma has been taking care of him while he was unconscious. With a bright smile on his face, Asuma tells Isuya that he did it because he doesn't want to lose a talented mage with a subtle voice. Isuya thanks Asuma for his help and lets him know that not everyone in S4 is like Kiryu. Isuya admits that Kiryu's magical power is incredible, but he doesn't agree with his ideas. Isuya then reveals he wanted to see just how strong this overpowered main character, Asuma, truly is to have been able to defeat Kiryu. Isuya then bows his head to Asuma to apologize on Kiryu's behalf for everything he has done to him. Asuma smiles and tells Isuya that he doesn't seem like a bad person. He then tells Isuya that he's going to forget that he ambushed him. However, in exchange for this, he wants to make a deal. Isuya asks what the deal is, and Asuma tells him he wants him to leave S4 and join him in forming a new faction at the academy. Asuma is willing to take the risk of recruiting him, as he doesn't have his memories from 3,000 years ago. In this manhwa recap, Asuma has already understood that he's going to need allies if he wants to achieve anything in this current era. Asuma lets Isuya know that he's counting on him to walk together toward the future he is seeking. Isuya is very impressed and honored by the offer. He wastes no time getting out of bed and kneels before Asuma, telling him he is ready to follow him. This whole scene is a classic reincarnation trope, as Asuma is surprised by Isuya's behavior, clearly remembering the Isuya from 3,000 years ago doing the same thing. Just then, Asuma tells the nurse that he sees her peeking through the door. The woman quickly leaves, saying it wasn't her intention. Since he's finished with Isuya, Asuma prepares to leave. Before he goes, he gives the nurse a chart analyzing Isuya's magic circuit. Asuma tells her to use it as a reference, and when she sees it, she almost loses her mind. She can't believe how incredibly detailed the chart is. She yells for Asuma to stop, and asks if he would be willing to join her research institute as a special student. Asuma turns around, smiles at her, and rejects the offer, telling her that he's already fond of the academy. After leaving, Asuma heads to the magic analysis room because he got a little sidetracked and needs to continue his research. When the computer finishes analyzing his suggestions, it concludes that his theory is recommended for presentation at academic conferences as a new magical system. Asuma is happy that his hunch was correct and breathes a sigh of relief, as this establishes the foundation for hybrid magic that combines ancient and modern methods, a perfect development for this action manhwa. Asuma realizes that the next step will be to adjust each magic formula to adapt it to specific uses. Then he will adapt them to the magic circuits, and also needs to check their compatibility with the elements. With so much to do, Asuma realizes that the magic analysis room could be his second home. He plans to surpass all the ancient magic learned and then create revolutionary magic. The next day in class, the teacher calls Suma because he suspects she is cheating, as her grade suddenly increased. The teacher asks her to come to the front to solve a question on the board. He manipulates Asuma to come closer, and Asuma walks confidently to prove that the nits are not trash. Asuma takes the chalk and solves the equation in detail, surprising the teacher and the students. He even explains the origin and use of the equation. It seems to be the same equation that led to the creation of the smart rods. Upon hearing this, the teacher is overwhelmed and has no choice but to tell Asuma that he is correct, and asks him to return to his seat. The teacher is astonished because Asuma solved a problem meant for university students. As he returns to his seat, Lily can't stop looking at the cool guy. During lunch, many from the class approach Lily asking her to talk to Asuma to be his friend. Seeing that they won't leave her alone if she doesn't, Lily finally agrees to talk to Asuma. Lily asks Asuma if he will be free after school to go to the cafe in Ebisu with the class. Asuma initially declines the offer, but realizing that Lily would be embarrassed, he changes his mind. The whole class cheers when he agrees, admitting that it is the best day of their lives. Meanwhile, a strange girl watches Asuma with the intention of ruining his beautiful face. Moments later, Asuma and his classmates arrive at the cafe, but Asuma can't rest for a moment. The students are interested in everything concerning him. Lily soon grows tired of their incessant questions and yells at them to ask one at a time. Asuma starts answering all their questions, like his favorite food and the advantages of being a nit. Even when he is about to forget a question, the student quickly reminds him. Asuma says that the person closest to him is Lily. Upon hearing this, Lily nearly faints, but she tries to stay calm so it doesn't end up like before. However, she unloads her emotions into the cup she is holding, squeezing it so hard that she spills all its contents. Asuma still manages to make her blush by comforting her about the spilled drink. Lily tells Suma that the students are curious about him since none offer elite courses. Apparently, NEET does not mean education, employment, or training. However, everyone is convinced that this is not the case for Asuma. In fact, they believe he is more like a NIT, skilled, clever, and amazing. Asuma smiles upon hearing this and tells the students that they might be right. Lily can't believe that Asuma actually thinks well of everything they have said so far. Upon leaving the cafe, they exchange contact information with Asuma, which gives them another round of excitement. Meanwhile, someone spies on Asuma and sends his location in real time to their boss. Asuma notices this person and tells Lily to be careful. Suddenly, a group of elite students appears. Asuma asks why they are there, but they fall silent until a car pulls up. The students form a path for whoever is in the car. As the car door opens, Asuma's classmates are terrified because the one who steps out is one of the S4. He approaches Asuma and introduces himself as Fukada Shion, leader of the Academy's club union. Without a doubt, Asuma can see that Shion is the same Shion from 3,000 years ago. Shion tells Asuma that he heard how he helped Isuya, and since the group can't remain in his debt, he decides to challenge Asuma to a magic duel. Lily is shocked to hear this, and Asuma turns to ask her if she knows what a magic duel is. Lily is horrified to see that Asuma has no idea and whispers in his ear, explaining what it is. When Asuma takes too long to give his answer, Shion unleashes his terrifying battle aura to intimidate Asuma. Asuma analyzes the aura and realizes that it's a fighting spirit aimed at him and the rest of his classmates. Asuma realizes that Shion is willing to take hostages to get him to accept the duel. Since this also offers him some entertainment, Asuma decides to accept the duel. The moment he accepts the duel, Shion sheathes his sword and tells Asuma that the duel will take place the next morning in the Academy's central arena. Asuma smiles without a care in the world, ready to show Shion why he is superior. Later, in a lucid dream, Asuma delves into his subconscious and hidden thoughts. Asuma sees a great opportunity to investigate the body's original owner. He remembers that upon his reincarnation, there was some unused mana left in his body's magic circuits. Since he hasn't touched it, he believes he can read the original owner's thoughts if he examines it. He also believes there will be a remnant of the past Asuma within his thoughts. To do this, he realizes he needs to use magic to extract the remnant spirit, but he remembers that there's no ancient magic for this. Being the genius that he is, he decides to create one for it. He jumps on the idea and begins to piece together everything needed to make it work. And it works. He smiles because he is literally creating new magic within a mental space. Asuma is sure that he'll be the only one in history to do this. Just as expected, Asuma succeeds and extracts the consciousness from the body. The young Asuma is frightened when he sees an exact copy of himself in front of him and demands to know where he is. However, his head throbs and he falls to his knees in pain. Asuma notices that the memory synchronization between the young Asuma and the body has begun. All the memories flood in, and Asuma realizes that he had tried to take his own life in his room, causing him to pass out. Afterward, he ended up in the hospital and fell into a coma from which he wasn't supposed to wake up. He asks Asuma if everything he saw is correct, and Asuma replies that it is. He lets him know that he is currently using his body and apologizes for it. However, the young man doesn't mind, since he would have remained in a coma if it weren't for him. The young Asuma then asks Asuma why someone from 3,000 years ago was reincarnated into his body. Asuma took his time to explain, and when he did, the young Asuma nearly lost his mind. Asuma also added the story of how Kiryu and the professor were bullying him. However, Asuma has already defeated them, and has also overcome other strong opponents. Asuma reveals that he does all this to protect his body. Young Asuma is frightened when he realizes that he would have become a mini-celebrity at school. However, he no longer thinks this is a problem for him, as he is dead. Young Asuma then reveals that he finally remembers how everything happened when he was in a coma. A meteor shower passed nearby, and these were absorbed by a large black hole. Inside the black hole, a speck of light caught his attention. He narrates that the light flickered as if it were struggling, and decided to take its place. Young Asuma leaped and continued to fall. He realized that he was someone who wanted to die, but lived, while the old Asuma was someone who wanted to live, but ended up dying. Young Asuma smiles, saying that it probably happened as it should. However, the old Asuma disagrees, saying that they are two souls in one body, and that neither can be Asuma alone. Asuma confidently tells young Asuma that they are in his story, and promises to make his dream come true. Young Asuma smiles and tears fall from his eyes upon hearing this. He and the old Asuma shake hands, and he thanks him for the help. Young Asuma tells the old Asuma that he is glad he is trying to help him fulfill his wish. Then young Asuma asks the old Asuma if he can help with anything, and the old Asuma tells him about his experience at the cafe. He says that Lily was shouting a strange invocation as everyone turned into Mocha Blanco. This leaves the old Asuma confused, and he asks young Asuma if he can translate it. Young Asuma laughs upon hearing this, and tells the old Asuma that he doesn't mind helping, but at that moment his body starts to fade, telling them that his time is up. Young Asuma thanks the old Asuma for bringing him back. Before disappearing, he tells the old Asuma that he will continue to watch his story. When Asuma wakes up, he knows that young Asuma is just a persistent thought, but still wants to fulfill all his wishes. Meanwhile, at Shion's residence, he is sitting in front of a giant crystal called Orichalcum of Worsita, extracted only in the Fukata family's mountains for generations. It is the hardest metal on the planet, and after meditating, Shion cuts it into pieces with his sword. At that moment, the strange girl who was following Asuma appears in Shion's training field. It turns out that she is also one of the S4 and is Muhara Miyune. Miyune is impressed by how effective Shi's sword is, as it is able to cut through the material effortlessly. Shei-esh then tells Mun that he has already seen the video she sent him, and is surprised that Isuya and Kiryu lost in the way they did. Shion mentions that he could be in the S4 just for being there, but at the same time holds Isuya and Kiryu in high regard. He considers them the embodiments of the Academy's prestige, and therefore has no intention of showing mercy to anyone who threatens the Academy's prestige. Muni agrees with him, telling him that if he underestimates Asuma for being a net, he will only regret it, just like Isuya and Kiryu did. Shion then unsheathes his sword and swears by the moon in the sky that he will defeat Asuma. He says that he doesn't care if something happens to Asuma, because the authority of the Academy is much more important than a human life. Mo is happy to hear this and encourages Shion to smash Asuma's pretty face. Then Mun asks him if he intends to bring out his secret weapon during the fight, but Shion says no, believing that the fight does not justify it. He thinks that his familiarity is enough for the battle. Thus, the day of the duel arrives, and Asuma is excited about the whole affair. Speaking of the magical duel, it is a sanctioned battle between students based on the use of magic. Apparently, the students of the institution are ranked according to the outcome of a magical duel. And, as usual, the rankings go from F to S. High-ranking students receive various privileges within the academy, making it more enjoyable while they wait in the arena's waiting room. This is what Asuma learned from Lily. Lily thinks that Asuma already knew this, since it is common knowledge for all students. However, Asuma lets her know that this is the first time he has heard about it, and thanks her for telling him. Lily is surprised to hear this and assumes that Asuma is still suffering from all the memory confusion. Because of this, she resolves to support him. Suddenly, she realizes that she is actually in Asuma's waiting room and starts to daydream as she always does. Asuma's voice calling her snaps her out of her fantasy. Then, Asuma shows her two ties, one black and one white, and asks her which one looks better. Lily chooses the black one, and Asuma thanks her for her help. Then, Asuma asks Lily if she will get more time in the magical analysis room if she manages to increase her rank, and Lily says yes. Lily can't believe that Asuma cares so much about the magical analysis room. Asuma tells Lily that Sean calls him a troublemaker for the school, and Lily confirms this by showing him the news article about his fight with Sean. Shion had told the press his desire to take revenge on Asuma, who is currently destroying the academy. Even when Asuma sees the article, he remains unfazed, which surprises Lily. She can't believe Asuma's audacity. Shion is a master of Japanese magical fencing and heir to the rare metal mines that supply smart wands. His donations to the academy amount to billions, so no one there can challenge him. Lily tells Asuma that even if he is right, public opinion will be manipulated to make it seem like justice supports Shion. Asuma stops to think and decides to ignore it. Then he asks Lily how the tie looks on him. Lily is impressed by his aura and assures him that the tie looks good. With this, Asuma stands up to go to the duel. Lily is surprised to see that the boy shows no fear, wondering if he can hear her. On the way to the arena, he crosses paths with Isuya, and they exchange a knowing glance. Meanwhile, Shion has arrived at the arena, and the elites are cheering him on, telling him to crush Asuma and finish him off. Shortly after, Asuma also appears. Shion congratulates him for not running away, and Asuma appreciates the gesture. Suddenly, Shion asks Asuma who he is. The question surprises Asuma, who thinks that Shion has discovered that he is a reincarnated being. Shion tells Asuma that he is taking the fight seriously because Asuma defeated Kiryu and Isuya, which is no coincidence. This is precisely why he asks Asuma who he is, accompanying the question with an intense battle aura. Asuma remains unfazed by the intimidation and simply tells Shion that he is Asuma. Shan is impressed that Asuma didn't even flinch when he tried to overwhelm him with his battle aura, and makes it clear that he has no intention of underestimating him. Xian tells him that he is going to face him with everything he has, and crush him with all his strength. Asuma smiles upon hearing this, telling Xian that this is exactly what he expected, and assures him that he won't hold back either. Just as the referee is about to start the match, Xian asks him to wait. Then, Xian tells Asuma that he is willing to show him mercy because it is a tradition of the noble Fukata family. Xian tells Asuma that if he submits his withdrawal letter now, he is willing to let him lose by default. This way, Asuma wouldn't get hurt, but it would be a shame for the gathered students to come for nothing. Xion asks Asuma what his decision is, and Asuma turns to the referee to ask him something as well. Asuma asks Xion what his rank would be if he wins the match. The referee says that Xion is a rank S student and Asuma is rank F. This implies that Asuma will rank up if he wins the duel. After hearing this, Asuma turns back to Xion and tells him that he is willing to withdraw from the match if his rank is elevated from F to S. Asuma finishes by telling Xion that he will also avoid getting hurt if they do it that way. The moment he says this, Xion's anger fills the entire room. Xion tells Asuma that it has been a long time since someone stepped aside in front of him due to how rude Asuma is. Xion assures him that he will not forgive him, even if he begs or cries. In fact, he is ready to beat Asuma to a pulp. Asuma further provokes him by telling him to come at him by all means. Xion demands the referee to start the match. Since Xion is the reincarnation of his former subordinate, Asuma knows he cannot hold back or he will lose. Asuma plans to use all the power of ancient magic from the start. Asuma shows his magic circle, surprising everyone, as they have never seen one like his before. Asuma launches a magical explosion at Xion, but before it reaches him, it is intercepted. Xion uses automatic interception earth attribute magic. Asuma is not surprised, as that is how his previous self moved as well. Xion then tells Asuma that his unknown origin magic will not work on him. Xion takes his sword and tells Asuma that he is ready to end the fight in one blow. Asuma is knocked down by the sword that acts as both a smart staff and a physical blade. Asuma watches Char attack and realizes what Xion's counterattack strategy is. Asuma is impressed and prepares to be the one to break Xion's impenetrable space. For Xion, Asuma is an irregular mutation that appeared out of nowhere. He sees it as a disgusting nuisance that disturbs the harmony of the school, so he cannot allow this. Xion is confident that Asuma cannot block his attack, and the students are excited to see Xion's final move worsen Asuma's situation. He is trapped by Xion's magic, so he cannot escape. When Xion sees that Asuma is trapped, he acts. Yun watches in amazement, wondering what Asuma will do, as Xion's slash can cut through even the hardest material on the planet. As the slash approaches Asuma, he takes off his tie, saying he's done playing nice. He then casts a spell to harden the tie, making it as solid as a rock. With it, he blocks Xion's attack and even breaks it. This shocks Xion and everyone else. As Asuma stops Xion's deadly technique with just a tie, Asuma activates a dispel spell to dissipate the magic that was holding him. Now free, Asuma disappears, sending chills down Xion's spine. As Asuma prepares to counterattack, Xion panics just thinking about it. Noticing Asuma is gone, Xion reinforces his absolute space for an attack. Asuma suddenly appears behind him, and just as he's about to strike, the automatic interception system activates again. A giant hand emerges from below and blocks Asuma's attack, giving Xion enough time to launch a slash at Asuma. However, Asuma dodges the blow and throws his sword before chasing after Xion. Xion thinks Asuma is preparing for a suicide attack with these actions. However, Asuma surprises him by keeping his particle dissipation spell active. This dissolves anything that could block Asuma's path as he heads towards Xion. Just as he reaches Xion, he pulls out another sword and swings it forcefully at Xion. Lily is surprised to see this and realizes Asuma also kept the second tie. Xion finds himself struggling against Asuma's overwhelming strength, but Asuma congratulates him for resisting, as he had planned to end the fight in a single blow. Xion admits that Asuma is the first to get this close within his domain, and for that reason, he plans to reveal his secret sword technique for the first time. At that moment, Xion unleashes his magic sword, Nebulous Full Moon, which emits an intense light. Asuma fails to stop it, and Xion lands a direct thrust into his chest. Mo smiles because this sword technique combines a disruptive magic sword with a piercing one, and it's something not even she can dodge. The blow goes straight to his chest, sending a wave of atomic damage through Asuma's body. Asuma loses mobility and collapses to the ground, leaving Lily screaming in pain and desperation. With Asuma unresponsive, Xion is worried that Asuma is dead because he put too much power into the strike. Xion tells the referee to check on Asuma, and he rushes to do so. Xion is already prepared to accept the punishment for Asuma's death under the guise that it was a mistake. Suddenly, Asuma stands up like a zombie, looking terrifying in the process. Shion is stunned because Asuma shouldn't be able to withstand the secret technique of his magic swordsmanship. Asuma tells Shion that he himself was mistaken from the start, because while he thought he was giving his all, deep down, he was underestimating Shion. Now that he's back, Asuma is ready to get serious. Asuma approaches Shion, who panics and prepares to use his secret sword technique again. Asuma knows that Shion's mana is incredible, but he has stamina problems. He realizes the damage he received from Shion was fatal, and to avoid dragging things out any longer, he plans to end the fight soon. Asuma plans to compress the mana in his magic circuits to the threshold limit to temporarily enhance his physical abilities. Even though it was the first time he had ever done it, he achieved it easily, his body glowing intensely. Asuma is grateful to face a strong opponent, as this has allowed him to immerse himself in building and experimenting directly on the battlefield. While Asuma thinks about this, Shion sees it as an opportunity to attack. Shion plans to deliver the final blow, but before he can, Asuma appears behind him. Shion is astonished by the guy's speed, leaving him wondering how a human can reach such speed. Nevertheless, he believes he still has a secret weapon and unleashes his familiar. His familiar emerges from below to grab Asuma's legs. Shion laughs at Asuma because he believes he has succeeded in immobilizing his movements. However, Asuma surprises him by pulling out the familiar with one hand. He throws it away as if it were paper before finishing it off with a magical spell, shocking everyone. Asuma tells Shion that he can no longer use automatic interception, as he has defeated his familiar. Shion trembles upon seeing this, and Asuma approaches him, saying that it is all over. Shion cannot believe what is happening before him, as he is supposed to be the best Japanese swordsman. However, he is not ready to give up, and shouts loudly to invoke his last resort. 3,000 years ago, Asuma surprised Shion by creating a new magic that extracts hidden abilities within oneself. Shion tells Asuma that the inherent mana can be increased about tenfold. Asuma was impressed to hear this, but Shion pointed out that it had a side effect. He tells him that the brutal side of the caster will manifest once it is used. Because of this, Shion thinks he needs more refinement. However, he reveals that they have found a suitable human for the experiment. And since it will be dangerous, Asuma asks, "Who is the subject?" Shion tells Asuma who he has in mind. And after hearing it, Asuma tells Shion to continue with his work, assuring him that he will trust his new magic. Now, in the present, Shion can activate this magic, and his alter ego appears. He lunges at Asuma like a madman ready to cut him into pieces. Asuma can see that the guy has become incredibly fast by enhancing his magical circuit and greatly improving his physical abilities. Shion's incredible speed forces Asuma to constantly retreat, while Shion mocks him, telling him to stop running. With his destructive ability unleashed, Asuma notes that Shion has awakened his potential from 3,000 years ago. He notices that others did the same when in an extreme state. However, Asuma does not think that Shion is still a threat. Shortly after, Shion corners Asuma, which has been his plan from the beginning. Asuma is surprised that even in his madness, he still calculates his movements. Shion is pleased that everything has gone well, and tells Asuma that he is coming after him with his final secret technique. This technique launches dozens of instant death, magical swords, nebulous new moon. Asuma is worried because he does not know if he can withstand the direct damage from the technique. Despite the danger, Asuma still believes he has the advantage. He then realizes that he must intercept Shion's secret technique, so Asuma creates a magical circle to stop Shion's barrage of attacks. The magical circle forms a giant three-dimensional lens, and Shion's first attack touches the giant lens positioned by Asuma. In addition to the analytical ability that Shion infused into the magical circle, he added a novel provision to it. Instead of automatically analyzing the contact target, it transmitted the raw, exposed information directly to Asuma. Asuma then performs a quick analysis in his brain, using the supercomputer as a reference. With this computer running, he processed information at nearly the speed of light. This makes Shion's fast slashes seem slow, as they can't surpass that speed. To put into perspective how incredible this is, Asuma managed to finish all of this in just 0.1 seconds. Upon finishing, he blocks Shion's attacks and counterattacks, sending a wave that pushes Shion back. However, he recomposes himself and goes after him, but he easily blocks the attack. Asuma grabs his sword and shatters it before landing a heavy punch on Shion's face, knocking him to the ground. Asuma points his sword at Shion, urging him to surrender or be stabbed in the worst way possible. Realizing he'll get himself killed if he continues to act brave or stubborn, Shion has no choice but to surrender. Asuma then smirks at him, asking if he's finally learned his place, since he's already lost. Shion then asks Asuma how he was able to predict his attack, because it's impossible for the human brain to do so. Asuma smiles and understands his confusion. He then explains that he applied the principle of the quantum computer within the magic analysis to increase the mana circulating in his brain. Shion is surprised to hear this, and Asuma says that science actually works well with ancient magic. However, Asuma lets him know that he was able to develop these countermeasures thanks to Asuya. Before the fight, Asuya told Asuma that Shion has an aggressive alternate personality. He informed him that he has one kind and normal personality and another aggressive one. He urged Asuma not to let his guard down until he had defeated the alter ego. Shion refuses to believe that an ordinary mage could do this, and Asuma smiles, telling him he's no ordinary mage because he is a great mage. Meanwhile, the students erupted in joy, celebrating Asuma's victory, and Lily couldn't be prouder in the stands. After the battle, the news of Shion's crushing defeat spread widely, and they know this is something that will remain in the history books for generations. Asuma also received his reward for defeating Shion and was promoted to a rank with additional perks like more time in the magic analysis room. Asuma is happy to achieve this, as he won't need daily authorization to use the room. Moreover, this will make his mission faster. Asuma eagerly awaits what will be created with the quantum computer. Later that day, Asuma returns home and realizes it's been a week since his reincarnation, and his knowledge of the modern era has increased. He has also learned a lot about the Earth and the fact that there was a cultural discontinuity that occurred between 3,000 years ago and the present day. Some things were passed down from ancient to modern times, and others were not. The source of this discontinuity is called the Great Calamity. This is why magic declined and science grew. Asuma is glad it was only a decline, not a total eradication. Ancient magic became a minority practice and was seen as a cult, but it re-emerged thanks to scientific power. It was organized in modern magic using scientific power that basically anyone can use, unlike ancient magic that requires talent to be utilized. To put it in perspective, the kingdom that betrayed Asuma long ago has perished. However, as Asuma has encountered 3 of his former subordinates, he deduces that Moon is also at the academy. He thinks that the king who betrayed him before is also in the modern era. At that moment, Asuma's alarm goes off, and he realizes he has a deadline report to work on. Asuma notices that young Asuma was working on something he invented in ancient times. Since he is the origin of everything, Asuma is confident he will finish it in no time. He then notices a note on the table, and upon opening it, he realizes that the things written on it have been covered in ink. Asuma uses his magic to erase the ink and is surprised to see a wish list. This is the list of things that Asuma wanted to do before dying, and suddenly one of them catches his attention: to meet his long-lost family. It is at this moment that Asuma realizes that the young Asuma's wish was not revenge, but family. Since young Asuma is eager to meet his family, the old Asuma promises to fulfill his wish. The next day, Asuma arrives at the academy, looking like an exemplary student, and captures everyone's attention with the way he behaves while walking through the school. The students are amazed at how he changed out of nowhere. He used to be a nobody at school, but suddenly he became a celebrity and even has Izuya following him. What makes it even more impressive is the fact that he is a colorless magician. Isuya then informs him that he has submitted a request to leave S4 so they can create a new faction. Furthermore, Isuya assures him that they should be able to secure a classroom for the club. Asuma is satisfied with his work and praises him for everything. Suddenly, they are surprised by the student press that has been investigating Asuma. They talk about his beauty and how he defeated those from S4. The press wants to interview Asuma, but he walks past them, leaving them embarrassed. The members of the press are persistent and chase after Asuma. Isuya accompanies Asuma to the door of his class before leaving. Just as Asuma is about to settle in, the press appears again. Asuma openly tells the lady that he does not accept requests from the press, but she is very persistent. She assures Asuma that she will not leave until he answers her questions. Noticing that the girl is persistent and stubborn, Asuma tells her that she must speak with Lily, his secretary. Lily is surprised to hear this. Asuma informs the press that they must get permission from Lily before speaking with him. However, he asks them to do it after school, as they have class now. The girl is happy to hear this and assures Asuma that she will return to ask him questions. After she leaves, Asuma whispers to Lily that he will definitely reward her for her efforts. Shortly after, the teacher enters the class. Asuma, on the other hand, is busy thinking about how his life has been since he became famous. He realizes he needs to secure a secret place where he can live in peace. Meanwhile, Lily is amazed at how dependent Asuma is on her. This leaves her fantasizing once again about who Asuma's mistress is. Later on, Asuma continues with his normal school life and participates in a swimming competition where he takes first place. What makes his victory so impressive is the fact that he didn't even use magic and still managed to set a new record of 35 seconds. Asuma can also tell that he's getting much more accustomed to his body, but at the same time he knows he can't show off too much of his strength because it will make him stand out. Asuma can only pray that Isuya's request for the club room will be successful. After getting out of the pool, he heads to the showers to wash up. Since swimming class is the last period of the day, he plans on stopping by the magic analysis room after speaking with Isuya. Suddenly he notices a strange figure in front of him who turns out to be a girl. Before he even realizes what's happening, The girl gets closer, and it turns out to be Mune, who tells Asuma she wants to get to know him on a deeper level. Asuma is immediately on high alert because he can tell the person in front of him is no ordinary individual. Asuma tries to stay calm and tells Mune that she's in the men's locker room, but Mune insists that she's in the right place. Asuma suggests she should leave before the other guys come in and see her. However, she simply tells Asuma that they are alone. Asuma turns and notices that everything has already changed. Even the other students have vanished, and he quickly realizes something is terribly wrong. He wonders if it's a magical attack, understanding that he's in a dangerous situation. He decides to analyze the situation further, and concludes that putting some distance between himself and Mune is the best course of action. Asuma makes a dash for the door, and as he prepares to run through the changing room, he suddenly hears Mune right behind him. This startles and confuses him. As he tries to figure out what's going on, he wonders when she managed to catch up. Suddenly, Mune appears behind him, telling him to put some clothes on because his body is tempting. Asuma ignores her and focuses on trying to understand what is actually happening. He first thinks it might be teleportation magic, but he discards that idea since he can't detect any trace of an incantation. He decides to play along with her and figure out her plan. As he gets dressed, Mune notices Asuma standing cautiously and urges him to relax, because if she wanted to harm him, she would have done it already. She tells Asuma she wants him to know everything about her before he decides. Asuma is confused, not understanding what she means by knowing everything. After instilling enough fear in him, Mune introduces herself, telling Asuma that she's an idol with over 3 million followers. She presents herself elegantly, but this gets no reaction from Asuma, who just stares at her blankly. Deep down, he's trying to figure out her moves because he recognizes them from 3,000 years ago. Asuma knows how dangerous it will be for him if he can't figure out Mune's secret. Since he doesn't detect any signs of ancient magic, he wonders if she acquired new magic after her resurrection. Mune notices Asuma's focused gaze and decides to tell him about herself. This is the reason she wanted to be alone with him. Mune brings up examples of animals like the praying mantis, which devours its male counterpart. She mentions that there are many creatures in the world that devour their male counterparts, and she considers this behavior to be useless and foolish. Mune reveals that, on the other hand, she wants to be dominated and consumed by a superior male. However, she doesn't want a weak man because she desires to be dominated by a strong man who can overpower her. She mentions that she can smell the superior aroma emanating from Asuma, who was able to defeat the other 3 members of the S4 out of nowhere. She adds that Asuma is a sadist. Asuma is surprised to hear this because he doesn't know what's giving her that idea. Mune believes they are a compatible match, and that's why she wants to test his strength. She unleashes a slash very close to Asuma that cuts his hair. This sends a shiver down his spine because he knows he would have died, as he couldn't perceive the slash. This leaves him trembling because he doesn't want to believe that her speed surpasses Shion's sword slashes. Asuma dismisses this idea, saying there must be another trick behind it. Mune smiles at Asuma, urging him not to disappoint her, and Asuma, for his part, finally composes himself to properly unravel the mystery behind Mune. Asuma is observing his surroundings and memorizing everything when he is cut on the arm by Mune's attack. Before he even realizes it, another blow hits him in the leg, and Mune tells him that he will be free to do whatever he wants with her if he manages to defeat her. However, she warns him that if he fails to even touch her, she will kill him. Then she tells him he is free to bow before her and crawl at her feet if he doesn't want to be killed. Mune says that breaking a sadist like Asuma would be a joy for her. As she says this, Asuma remains silent, and Mune continues to damage his body. Mune mocks Asuma, asking if he's too scared to act and calling him a complete disappointment. She also reveals her disappointment at Asuma's unwillingness to fight. Asuma finally breaks his silence, and Mune believes he's about to beg for his life. However, Asuma tells her she's wrong because he just wants to tell her that he will never crawl or beg for his life. Asuma then adds that he doesn't even like Mune, and this triggers a wave of rage in her body. Asuma continues telling her that all her talk about strong males and domination means nothing to him. Asuma finishes by saying he has no desire to get a lover. Asuma mocks Mune for believing she can control him, making it clear that they are on different levels because he is stronger. This infuriates Mune, and she tells Asuma to back up his words by changing the situation because a man who cannot love her does not deserve to exist. She launches a furious magical attack at Asuma, who blocks the first attack, but Mune follows up with another attack that cuts his chest. Even so, Asuma isn't worried because he has already finished his preparations. Mune also notices that something is wrong because Asuma isn't even trying to defend himself. Just then, Asuma summons a magic circle and makes himself the target of the circle. Mune is surprised to see this and believes that Asuma has gone crazy for trying to harm himself. Asuma laughs at Mune, telling her she's getting it wrong, as this is his solution to the problem. He has found a way to break Mune's trap, and it's the only way. At first, Asuma was worried because it seemed strange to him that an archmage like himself couldn't perceive the trajectory of Moon's attack. Because of this, he deployed invincible minds infused with the analysis skill into the air. While Moon attacked him, he analyzed the environment to find an opening. It turns out one of the mines was accidentally destroyed, but it was through this that he was able to notice an attack coming from another phase. He noticed the attack was so fast because it hit him while he was trying to recover. Asuma wonders how Moon's attack speed could be greater than that of a swordsman like Xian. However, Asuma was able to figure out the trick. He noticed that the clock was not failing, and it was his perception that was altered. Asuma realized that he is currently under the influence of a delay magic that is obstructing his perception. However, the problem is that there is no trace of the magic being cast by Moon herself. Asuma then concludes that there is another mage who is maintaining the spell at all times. Eventually, he realized that there were artificial life forms attached to his body, and they were all Moon's familiars. Apparently, Moon had manipulated the shower with water mixed with her familiars. It turns out that the more familiars attach to a target, the more their perception is delayed, slowing their consciousness. To put it in perspective, he became so slow that Moon's movement was too fast for him. But to get rid of the magic, he must cast a spell that will launch him away. However, the direction in which he is launched will be key to changing the situation. Asuma's spell activates as he flies towards the sauna room and his body catches on fire. This in turn burns all of Moon's familiars that are attached to his body, but at the same time his shirt also burns up. Asuma confirms if everything went as he had planned. When he checks the time and realizes that the flow of time has returned to normal, Asuma smiles because the tables have turned in his favor. Moon is terrified when she realizes her magical creatures have been burned, leaving her wondering how he knew. However, she believes she is safe because he has not noticed her other trap, but Asuma surprises her by saying that he can see she also has the same magical life forms on her body. Asuma mentions that her magic grants high speed and agility, which translates to delay and acceleration. Asuma comments that she can activate her trap by combining these two spells. Moon is surprised to hear this because Asuma has figured everything out. Moon decides to attack first and launches a quick attack, but she can no longer match Asuma's perception. Moon appears behind Asuma again and launches an aqua laser, but he disappears before the attack reaches him. Suddenly, Asuma is behind her, and as she tries to flee, she realizes she has no escape, since Asuma has blocked all her routes. Asuma lets her know that there is no way she can escape. He informs her that he is going to annihilate all the mana surrounding her. Then, Asuma hits her with a powerful magic attack that shatters Sister and leaves her defenseless. Moon falls to her knees and watches in horror as Sister vanishes into thin air. Asuma approaches her, telling her that the fight is over, and urges her not to resist anymore. Suddenly, Asuma notices something strange. He notices that Moon is actually a man, and asks if this is what he meant when he mentioned that he was in the right place being in the men's bath. Mo admits she can change her form by controlling the water in her body, but since her mana was depleted, her true self was revealed. However, she tells Asuma that her feelings of being dominated by a strong man are not fake. Mooney tells him he can laugh at her, but Asuma surprises her by putting a towel over her. Asuma apologizes, saying then she asks why he treats her like a girl, and Asuma says that gender doesn't matter. In fact, he is willing to help her fix her wand, and Asuma smiles as he explains how he saw her attack. Moon's face turns red as she realizes that Asuma is a total gentleman. Asuma then reminds her of what she said about surrendering to whatever he wants if he manages to defeat her. Since he has managed to defeat her, he tells her that he has an order for her. Asuma says he has things he wants to achieve at the academy and needs her talent for magical design because it is exceptional. Asuma makes his intentions clear. He tells Moon that he wants her to leave S4 and join his group. Moon reminds Asuma that he said he didn't like it. Asuma confirms it by saying that he actually doesn't like it, but he appreciates her recklessness. However, he doesn't dislike her either, and this leaves Moon completely blushing. Asuma suggests getting an extra uniform before someone arrives. He also tells her that there are things they need to discuss. Like an excited child, Moon acknowledges his greatness by calling them Surasuma. Later, the academy director is seen receiving his familiar in his office. Surprisingly, she looks quite a bit like the king from 3,000 years ago. He asks his familiar if it managed to gather useful information. The familiar then shows its findings on the screen. The familiar was able to capture the fight between Asuma and Moon, and this surprises the director. The moment he sees Asuma, he realizes he has seen him somewhere before. He remembers that Asuma tried to take his own life some time ago, but after miraculously waking up, he has been making astonishing moves. Upon closer observation, the director quickly realizes that Asuma is the same Asuma from 3,000 years ago. He discovers that the young Asuma's attempt at self-harm allowed the old Asuma to reincarnate in his body. The director is shocked that Asuma has been reborn in this era and concludes that the chain of destiny that binds them has been forged. He is ready to break the chain and cut ties with Asuma forever. The director is pleased with his familiar's work and gives it a high-quality magic stone made by the Suaragi Corporation as a reward. The familiar happily takes the magic stone and consumes it. Sometime later, Asuma is seen in class reading his notes while the teacher talks about philosophy and the pioneers of philosophy like Socrates. It seems that the teacher is just wasting time because the whole class is focused on the elegant Asuma. At the same time, Lily receives a message from the press club informing her that they will interview Asuma that day, no matter what. Shortly after, class ends, and the teacher is happy that everything went smoothly. Lily then tells him that she wants to talk to him about the press club. Asuma realizes he has complicated the situation for Lily, but it was his only option. He then mentions to Lily that she's a great help and that he hasn't forgotten his promise to reward her. Lily is already blushing when Asuma says this. Asuma makes it worse by getting closer and telling her he'd like them to get along better. Lily agrees to this, but she's confused about what he means by that. After saying this, he turns to leave while Lily stands there nervously. Asuma then heads to the magic analysis room, intending to create a revolutionary magic that very day. The moment he enters the room, he notices something is different, and just then, a girl appears in front of him. Asuma stays on guard until the girl suddenly bows to him, calling him master and apologizing for the wait. It's then that Asuma realizes the autonomous AI assistant, which he created with all his wisdom, is already operational. It seems he was working on the AI as a side project for his new magic development. Asuma is surprised that the AI was completed so quickly. He touches her cheek to confirm that she has a holographic body. She tells Asuma that the simulations are already complete and reports that she can reproduce thousands of patterns in the room for the new magic he's developing. Asuma is happy to hear this and suggests they start immediately. The AI bows to Asuma as she acknowledges his command. It turns out Asuma only wanted to create the AI to understand modern magic, but he ended up creating something more advanced than he expected. This overpowered main character initially believed that modern magic was trash, but after learning more, he realizes it's quite decent. Asuma understands that the AI will become more powerful and dependent if he continues to teach it everything he knows, and when it comes to general knowledge, he plans to rely on Lily. After she finishes the entire simulation, he suggests they test it in real time. She turns on the computer, and it begins to calculate what's needed. Before Asuma knows it, the process stretches late into the night. Asuma is grateful for his promotion, which gives him more time in the magic analysis room. At that moment, the AI suggests Asuma rest for at least 8 hours because her scan indicates he's tired. Asuma agrees with her, especially since he has been fighting repeatedly since his reincarnation. He admits that the modern world is highly stimulating, and he has somehow found himself absorbed in it. Asuma thanks the AI for the advice, but she thinks she doesn't deserve praise because she is just code. Asuma disagrees, saying that her routine is human-like, and since he designed her, he knows it well. Then he realizes she needs a name. Asuma remembers that her GPU was made in Germany and decides to choose a German name for her. After thinking for a minute, he decides on Val, and Val humbly accepts the name. She even blushes, and when Asuma sees this, he points out that it's part of what makes her human. Moments later, Val says the simulation is almost complete, and from the way Asuma is looking at it, it seems like it's going to work. Just then, an emergency message arrives for Asuma. Asuma asks Val who the sender is and is surprised to learn it's the Academy's director. The director tells Asuma to come to his office immediately, leaving Asuma wondering why he has been summoned. As the director, he knows he can't ignore the summons. Asuma tells Val to continue with the simulation. He also asks him to run a program code and, upon finishing, to send the materials to Asuya on his behalf. Bal nods and shows him the way to the principal's office. As he leaves the room, Asuma is unaware that the principal's familiar is watching him. In a memory from 3,000 years ago, warriors fight against creatures from another world, the Omegas. The warriors have lost many comrades, but they refuse to retreat because if they do, the kingdom will suffer. Suddenly, the enemy begins to prepare a coordinated attack that would wipe out the stubborn warriors. Even in the face of danger, the warriors stand their ground. Just as they are about to face their fate, Asuma suddenly appears, blocking the attack and eliminating the Omegas in one go, using devastating force. When the dust settles, the warriors thank him for his help, and he asks them to report to the Senate. Asuma looks around and blames himself for not saving the fallen warriors. Moments later, his subordinates join him on the battlefield. The 4 of them are also upset about arriving late, which caused the deaths of many warriors. Isuya suggests they take comfort in knowing they eliminated the invaders. Mo expresses his concern about the creatures, as he can't find them in the magic encyclopedia. Xian reveals that the creatures appeared out of nowhere as if they came from another world. Asuma then tells his comrades that they must remain vigilant against the troublesome invaders. Suddenly, King Mel appears on the scene to praise their great deeds. Asuma immediately bows to welcome him, and the king urges him to rise. Asuma asks the king to leave the area because it is dangerous, and Mel assures him that he is aware. but that he has to see the situation with his own eyes, and thanks Asuma for his help, because he was able to witness the invaders firsthand. Asuma reveals that everything happened just as Mel had said, and although there were casualties, the invaders have been stopped. Mel congratulates Asuma on his great work, and suddenly notices he has a cut on his arm. Asuma tells him not to worry, that it's just a scratch, but Mel ignores him. He tears a piece of his robe and uses it to bandage his arm, surprising Asuma. Mel states that since he has no powers other than his clairvoyance, helping him is no big deal. Mel mentions that it is Asuma's duty to protect the people of the kingdom with his power. It seems there is a legend in the kingdom about the magic staff and the Book of Wisdom. Mel thinks that Asuma is the staff and he is the book. Asuma is honored by the king's words and lets him know that he can count on him. Now, in the present, Asuma wonders why he is remembering that moment as he heads to the principal's office. Moments later, Asuma arrives at the office and is told to enter. However, he is surprised upon entering the office to see that no one is there. Suddenly, a magic circle appears above and below him, and he finds himself in another place. He realizes he has just been sent using teleportation magic. He is still trying to understand his situation when he sees the principal's familiar watching him from a distance. It is at that moment that Asuma finally realizes he has fallen into a trap.